And welcome to the Crawford Podcasting Network from the luxurious Crawford Indoor Stadium Studios in East Lansing, Michigan. It's the Headman Tom embracing the Michigan State rivalry, brought to you by the Crawford Podcasting Network. You see my teletype there? I could just literally read it off. So the teleprompter did it. Steve Adler, my guest host, co-host. This is our year three, Stevie, embracing the Michigan State rivalry and new studio setting for you, my friend. Tell us all about it.
We may have done this once before. I was in the transition of a move, but now it's official.
Yeah.
So I'm in the new. You have Crawford Indoor, and I have Fogg Adler Fieldhouse here. We are. I'm still in the process. A lot of things. I got to hang stuff on walls yet and figure a few things out. But here we are in the new digs. So.
Yeah, and I see over your right shoulder, the left shoulder, as we see you on screen, one Kirk Gibson catching a slant pass from Eddie Smith. Jerry Meter, who I knew, my wife knew, she knew from high school, I knew from college, the captain there, linebacker in the background. 24-14, Michigan wins the game, but that stadium was rocking. That was the eighth straight win, or I take it back. Was it eighth straight win or seventh straight? Well, eight, yeah, maybe it was eighth straight win. Michigan over Michigan State, and then 79, and then the upset. But that's a great photo. Where'd you get that photo?
Well, wait a second. You're looking at the 77 game behind me, right? Because 78 is when State won.
Yeah. So eight straight, starting in 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77. That's eight. Because 70 is zero. Starts at zero. Right.
Yeah. Apparently, the Spartans decided we weren't going to give you the entire decade. We're going to take one.
Yeah. And then when the 80s and then it started even out a little bit, in the 90s a little bit even more, and then the obviously the near and dear to you, Mark D'Antonio era.
Right. Well, the 90s were close. We got 4,
6 and 4. Yeah.
We got 4 in the 90s. We really rained on your parade a lot of times.
But that 1977 game started out muggy. A game you would not like. You were what, 9 years old or something?
8 years old.
8 years old, and had some came up from Ann Arbor. Had some Michigan State buddies of mine from high school. We tailgated, did all that stuff, had a good time. But I was nervous that game. The crowd was into it. Michigan State hated Michigan. They still do, obviously. But that crowd was into it, and Michigan State scored in their first drive. Michigan kicked off right on the very first drive. They went right down the field. Like, oh, God, this is going to be nerve-wracking. It was a nerve-wracking game, but Michigan survived 24-14. How do I remember that stuff? Why do I remember that stuff? Actually, it's embarrassing that I can remember that stuff.
I like that you can remember that, but I'm not sure you know your kids' middle names. But I like that you can tell me details on like what the weather was like in 1977 at that game. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it was. It's meaningless to most people, but anyway, it's exciting for you. Both our teams are undefeated, and play anybody. But you, Michigan State, you Spartans are playing a Power 5 team on the road, the Washington Huskies, which have beat up on Kent State and Portland State. So once again, we don't know how good anybody is.
Right.
But you are doing what you do. You go on these once a year road trips with your Michigan State dorm day buddies, and tell us how has that experience been, and what's your record? Have you checked on your record on, because you've been to Arizona State, you've been to Cal. I remember you went to Oregon. You've done the West Coast thing.
It's funny because I was talking to one of my buds who's going to Seattle with me, and we were just, without really marking it down, we were going, do we have a winning record on the road or not? I think I have a winning record, but it may not be fantastic because you're not going to see cream puffs on the road. You usually go to a good venue.
No, you want to go to a viable game.
Yeah, like for instance, I'm 3-1 in South Bend. That's pretty good. I'm 1-0 in Columbus. Not many people can say that.
Yeah.
I'm 1-2 in Ann Arbor.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if we lost to Cal, we lost to Oregon, won the Rose Bowl, lost to Wisconsin, won the Holiday Bowl.
So the Arizona State game
Yeah, if I
Yeah.
went and figured it all out, it's probably maybe slightly above 500.
Okay. The Arizona State game, you're like me. You want a crisp fall, 52 degrees, dancing clouds.
Yeah,
So you go out to Tempe, and I had a lot of friends who were out at that game. You must have been
brutal.
miserable. What was it, 105 or something when it kicked off?
It was like 100 at kickoff, and that was at 9 at night or 8 at night out there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was ridiculous.
And
But
The Oregon game in Eugene was hot too,
it
right?
was like 94 degrees,
Wow.
sun beating in my face the whole day. That was a tough one. Great game, lost, but really a great game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So yeah, so we're gonna roll the dice in Seattle and see what happens. So I just locked in on tickets this morning. Tried to hold out as long as I could.
did
Tried,
you?
tried to get a good deal. And
Because
friends,
you got a group of 8. That's tough to pull off.
yeah, it's because you can't wait too long on those tickets because you know how many groups of 8s are there online. But so I had to go on StubHub and do that. But the fees kill you. It's like $42 per ticket fee.
Really?
It's
Wow,
outrageous.
I didn't know that.
Even if you get really good seats, like for $150, you're thinking, hey, not too bad for really good seats. But then you look up and you're paying 200 out the door. So, but yeah, what are you
Okay.
going to do? I mean, you got 8. I can't. We can't roll the dice on game day, so I had to plant my flag and get those tickets today.
So I've been to Husky Stadium one time.
Yep.
You and I worked for PMA, and a guy named Paul Scoop, former Washington Husky, was a client from Great Tech, and he took me a tour of the stadium. And I can't get a gauge on how tough it would be. Michigan has not fared that well out there. They've
Well,
lost a couple
No
times.
Big Ten teams. When you go
But that
west,
overhang, the noise on that overhang, and
yeah,
then people tailgating their boats. It's
right,
one of those rare places like Tennessee.
yeah,
I think you're going to have a great environment there.
yeah. They talk about sailgating, not tailgating, but sailgating. Um,
Tailgating,
yeah, sailgating.
clever.
Yeah, and yeah, I've heard it's just a wonderful venue for college football.
Yeah,
You got the mountains in the background. You've got like you said, that the stadium holds the noise. I think pretty good. So I understand it's a pretty fun crowd. So I'm looking forward to
yeah.
it.
So, how do you feel about your team, and how do you feel about this particular challenge against the Huskies?
It's funny when you win 52-0, and granted it's just Akron, but still, it was probably the least impressive 52-0 game you could witness, if that makes sense. And I guess that means your program's in a good place when you can win like that. And a fan like me is just like, I mean, I saw some good things. There were, but the big nagging problem is Peyton Thorne, who people like me didn't think was going to be a problem at all, and I still don't think moving forward he's going to be a problem. But right now,
Mhm.
he's just not. He's just not there. And the first game, against Western, which was the team he originally verbal to, and then his dad
Yeah,
coaches there. First
yeah,
game, hey, I get it. There's going to be some nerves going there. So I gave him a pass that first game for missing wide open receivers.
yeah,
Then when he does it against Akron, now I'm like, wait a second, and these balls keep floating high.
yeah,
He realizes it because he mentioned it in the post game. Of course, they're going to realize it. I mean, if a dummy at home like me can see it, he obviously knows it. And so they got to get the mechanics figured out there. But I think he'll be fine. But he's got to play better, or else we're not going to come out of here with a W. That's as simple as that. So running backs, Berger and Broussard, I think together make a nice tandem.
Burger's the dude. I think.
Yeah, he falls forward, which I like a lot. I like running backs
Yeah,
that you get the extra yard and a half falling forward. It doesn't quite have the same excitement as having Kenneth Walker, having one guy who was just amazing,
yeah,
and two guys kind of maybe not do as much as him, but more than serviceable. Like more than they're a good tandem back there so
mm,
far. But we'll see against better competition and how the
yeah,
offensive line blocks. Receivers have been good. Haven't seen a lot out of Reed yet. They've been doubling him, and
yeah,
now he's
yeah.
hurt a little bit, so I don't know what his status is. But
I like Barker, that the guy that had the one hand spear catch.
yeah, the transfer tight end, and then you got
Yeah,
Coleman and
yeah, basketball
Jeremy
player.
Bernard. So I mean, the receivers are more than solid. You know, and
Back to Peyton Thorne, and I was really impressed by him at Big Ten Media Days, and in terms of his leadership. They had a leadership all day session, and I guess he just owned the team as far as being that guy. And so
yeah,
he's a coach's son,
yeah,
and so he's a good guy in that role. But I've noticed that he was bad. He was good in quarters 2 and 4, and he was bad in quarters 1 and 3 and he can flip it around. The Michigan State game last year, he was struggling early on,
yep,
and then he was delivering at money time.
yeah,
So Peyton Thorne has a little erratic element to his game that if
yeah.
he could put together a full game, in my opinion, he'd be pretty daunting opponent.
Right, right, and I think that's good analysis on your part. He's clutch. You know,
Yeah,
when he
when
needed
he
to throw
needs
that
to be.
pass to Reed
Yeah,
on fourth and whatever, and the game's over because we're down 16.
yeah,
I mean, he put that ball. You couldn't have placed it any better.
yeah.
He did the same thing against Penn State when we needed to score. So I mean, the guy's money in clutch time. But yeah, some of those passes make you scratch your head a little bit. But again, I'm not too worried. I'll be worried if he does the same against Washington. Maybe we just need a Power Five opponent to get his attention more. Maybe concentrate a little bit. I'm not sure, but
Well, you're going to be able to reveal a little bit what he needs to work on. I mean, I'll tell you what, this number 4, this Jacoby Windman, the kid
yeah,
from UNLV,
yeah,
he's got my attention because
he should.
the third down edge rusher, and then he's been playing weak side linebacker. I mean,
Yeah,
the dude's a player that you didn't have last year, in my
yeah.
opinion, and that's going to offset the fact any of your secondary. That's going to take a lot of heat off the secondary.
Oh yeah, which yeah, exactly. People talk about the secondary last year, and they weren't good, but you need the you need the front seven to put some pressure on the quarterback to make him uncomfortable back there. So yeah, Windman. What did I see? He leads FBS in sacks, tackles for loss, and some other category as well. So granted, it's 2 games and it's against inferior opponents, but still, most teams are playing inferior opponents, as you certainly know. Um,
Hey, I'm the biggest complainant, and I did it publicly
yeah,
at Big
yeah.
Ten Media Day.
Seriously, I don't want to get off tangent here, but I will give you a lot of credit because you were the guy, and our listeners can go and probably find this somewhere on the internet. You were the guy at the press conference who asked Harbaugh about that marshmallow schedule,
I was
and
worried about it.
he was not happy with you.
No, but you know what? And I don't really, and if he's not, I mean, I don't really care about that
Right,
aspect of it because every other media is throwing slow pitch softball like we're over here at Randy Park.
right.
But one thing I was worried, I thought, flipping over to Michigan for a second,
Yeah,
I thought it would be okay. They could get through the Cream Puffs, non-conference if the Big Ten would do its job
yeah,
and don't have any embarrassing losses in non-conference play, which brings the credibility of the
yeah.
league down. Okay, so what happens? Here we go.
Wisconsin.
Iowa loses to Iowa State. You have Wisconsin losing to Wazoo, one of the more inferior teams in the Pac-12. And then you have Nebraska, who Michigan plays November 12th, losing to Georgia Southern. It's crazy. I mean, the Sun Belt Conference has more credibility with that win, and Appalachian State's win,
Yeah,
and you have Marshall's win over Notre Dame. That they have more credibility than the Big Ten does right now. When you have embarrassing losses,
yeah.
Michigan and both Michigan State, in my opinion, they can go to the CFP, but they got to run the freaking table. There's no mulligans,
Yeah, because you're not going to have, well, especially
especially Michigan,
yeah, because yeah, your cream puff schedule.
because you
Uh,
got at least a Power Five. Like Michigan had a Power Five last year. Well, they played Washington last year at home.
right.
Not a very good Washington, and we don't know what Washington is this year. One thing though, Stevie, I'm going to tell you,
Mhm.
it's like every week is a data collection. You really don't know how good anybody is, right?
Yeah,
Washington, they haven't beaten anybody, and they could go and maybe they're going to be a juggernaut in the Pac-12. Maybe they'll beat USC in the Pac-12 championship. we don't know that, and so you really don't evaluate. You can't evaluate the schedule
Right.
until the season's further in.
Right. Well, getting back to what you said earlier about the Big Ten and the embarrassing losses, it's not just the losses, it's how they're losing. I mean,
Yeah.
Iowa is a punchline right now.
Oh my
You
God.
can't watch any sort of
Nauseating.
national TV without people. Oh, can they score a touchdown? Oh,
Yeah.
they scored seven, but two safeties. Hey, they got an offensive touchdown. Like they're the butt of the joke in college football right now. And
Right.
so there's that. Then you got Wisconsin losing at home. It's one thing if you went on the road and lost to
Yeah.
Wazoo.
I know.
Camp Randall is a tough place to play, as you know. That's a
Yeah.
tough place to play, and they
Oh yeah.
lost there. It's like what?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's been some tough losses that I think the Big Ten credibility wise is kind of hurting. And even Ohio State, their last game, they didn't have the overwhelming score that you would expect. And they struggled with Notre Dame, and we saw what happened with Notre Dame. So yeah, I mean the Big Ten's not exactly on top of the world right now.
Okay. So as you're sitting today,
Mhm.
where do you think this Michigan State team is going to go? I mean, we this is our first episode here in year 3. So we really haven't made our projections. We can make a projection week number 2 in. I mean, where, and you can just say, you don't have to name the losses, but where do you see this record wise regular season of the 12 games that they're having in regular
Yeah.
season? Where do you think Michigan State's going to end up?
I think they're 9-3. I think it's a good year, not a spectacular year. Again, a lot of it depends on Thorne. Can Thorne be the guy that we think he can be and we think he is? If he can, with those receivers and with those running backs that are good, and again, with the offensive line that's serviceable, average, we just need him to be average. I don't need a powerhouse offensive line. Give me an average line. I think they go 9-3. Defense has improved. Again, it's hard to tell yet, like you said, because we haven't played anybody. We're going to find out a lot this week. I mean,
Okay.
it's not a great Washington team, but they're 2-0 and they beat up on. They've done what they've
Well,
supposed to
you
have
know
done.
what? And then once again, with all the transfers that's going on,
Yeah,
you don't know what anybody has,
yeah,
right? Okay. So once again, this on season evaluation. So I was like real prejudiced against Colorado State, from the Mountain West. I said, well, okay, Michigan beat them game 1. We'll see how Colorado State. What did they do week 2? They lose to Middle Tennessee State at home by double digits. So that game got even discredited more. People don't pay attention to that. I pay attention.
right.
I pay
'Cause
attention to
right,
how,
because
I mean, people think
yeah,
I get too twisted up in that. How else can you evaluate your schedule unless you evaluate and see and analyze what those teams you play do over the course of the year? It's the only
absolutely,
way you can do it.
absolutely. And
And so maybe
yeah,
Washington is going to be good. You don't know. We don't know.
and what could Akron do? Like, let me get back to what I was saying earlier about Michigan State really not impressing a lot. I mean, Akron was moving the ball in that first quarter. I don't know if you watched any of the game. Um, they were moving the ball, but of course, Michigan State was forcing the fumbles. And, that's not luck. That's Michigan State hitting hard. So you got to give them credit for it. The defense coming in there and Winman forcing fumbles that he's been doing
Hmm.
both games now. But they were moving the ball, and then Michigan State took out their starting quarterback, and then the backup came in, and he wasn't really mobile, and he couldn't do much.
Right. Well,
So what could Akron do with their starting quarterback moving forward? I mean, that'll tell us whether this
well,
is how
Akron.
much this Akron team.
I'll tell you what. Of the two opponents, Western is a decent team. They have, and I'm familiar with the MAC, and I follow the MAC. So they got four starters on that deal. They have some athletes. They have NFL caliber. Akron, in
Mhm.
contrast, is picked the last in the MAC this year in their division.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I mean, and they've been struggling. Akron has. So there's a big difference between Western and
Yeah.
Akron,
Yeah.
and because of that, I mean, that's why I thought Western, not surprisingly, hung in that game as long as they did. But the thing about Michigan State that I've felt for many years is they like 2013. Remember the 2013, the Rose Bowl team,
Yeah.
champion team? They went to they started out struggling again. They only won by 8 points. They had that scoop and score to secure that game, that lightning delay game.
Yeah.
And so I don't think you need to wait. You're going to find out. Well, October 15th, you're going to find out when Ohio State comes to town.
Mm.
And yet the Wisconsin game, or October 8th rather, is the Ohio State game, and the 15th against Wisconsin. I think you're going to win that game. So your
Yeah.
two games of vulnerability. You got three. You got three tough games.
Right.
You got Ohio State at home. You got Michigan on the road. You got Penn State on the road. Those are your
Now,
three.
let's not throw Wisconsin to the wolves quite so soon. I mean, like you said, Michigan State was a scoop and score away from having a bad loss that year. Hey, teams can flip a switch, early in the season, and all of a sudden
Graham
get it.
Mertz looked pretty. Graham Mertz, Fred Mertz's son. I'm just kidding from the I Love Lucy days. I don't know. From what I saw, he didn't look very good.
I got you, but I'm not ready to write off Wisconsin quite yet. Iowa, I'm ready to write off because
You
that's
are.
two games where they can't score. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I know they have wide receivers out and they have wide receiver transfer and all that kind of stuff, but still, their offense is that's putrid, man. That's
Okay. So I love your switching down 63 miles to the southeast. I love your perspective on this, which I'm sure you're fatigued by this JJ McCarthy, Cade McNamara
Yeah.
narrative that is dominating the Big Ten network and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So and I was one that, and I in my podcast Wolverine.com podcast partner John Borton, you can go out to Wolverine.com and see our weekly podcast on YouTube. He's a Cade McNamara guy. I was a JJ McCarthy guy. This started last year. And so who do you fear more when Michigan State comes to Ann Arbor on October 29th? Who would you rather have your team go against?
Well, I mean, I think I probably view this the way everyone does. McCarthy's got more upside, but McNamara, I mean, he carved up Michigan State in East Lansing last year. I mean, he looked like Joe Montana in his prime. Granted, Michigan State was stacking the run and all that, and forcing him to beat Michigan State, and damned if he almost didn't. He looked fantastic. So, hey, careful what you wish for. That's what I say to Michigan fans. You got what you wanted. Now he better work out, because what happens if he gets hurt and now all of a sudden Cade has to come back?
I don't look. See, I look at it. I look at it as a luxury.
Yeah.
It's a position of strength.
Okay.
Quarterback. You got to have two quarterbacks. One could go down. So I don't. I like Cade McNamara in that role. I think he needs to. I was in the press conference after the Colorado State game, and I thought I was looking at a pouty 16-year-old kid, arms folded, really surprised. And but it's best players play, and you compete. What really bothered me about this is where I like Peyton Thorne over Cade McNamara, because we were talking about the quarterback position, how he approaches this season. And Peyton Thorne said, "Oh, I can't assume I'm going to start. I got to win the Noah Kim's the other. I mean, I got to win the position in practice every day. That position is rented," as Jim Harbaugh says. And Cade McNamara thought he had won it, and it was his permanently because he had a good off season and he was good in two-a-days. So I was really taken back by that, as was others. But I think he is going to. I think he's still going to be a good teammate, and I think this is going to work out. And it's still up. I mean, you compete every day, so we'll see how.
Two things.
We'll see how it goes.
Two things. Number one, I get what you're saying about Peyton Thorne, but he wasn't sweating Noah Kim taking a starting job. That
I understand, but I like it. I like it being verbalized.
Yes, so that's fine. It's not quite the same situation. And two, you say this is a position of strength. I say, based on Cade McNamara's body language, based on what he said, I don't know if it's a position of strength. In that, if McCarthy goes down, is Cade's head going to be?
You're hanging your thing on, but what you're doing is you're prefacing your analogy on an injury, is what you're saying. So take the injury element away.
Or struggling. I mean, if McCarthy just all of a sudden throws a couple pick sixes and looks awful, and Harbaugh's like, "Hey, let's bring in the reliever." What's McNamara's mindset? Is he basically like, "F you," in that kind of
Well, that would disappoint me.
like whatever. I mean, is his head going to be in the right place to come out and go, I'm going to win this job back? Or is it going to be like, oh, now you're calling on me. Oh, now you need me. That kind of thing. And you're dealing with young kids here, man. You're dealing with people that he's got to be embarrassed, I bet, in a way. Not that there's a reason to be embarrassed, but here's a guy who won a Big Ten title. I mean, the first one in what, 2000, since
Yeah,
2004?
but he didn't do that by himself. People, that
Okay,
Michigan
but give him
defense won
credit.
that Ohio State game. This is an argument, and a lot of times that comes from Michigan State people because I
Yeah.
have this like Rico Beard. He wants Cade McNamara there, and almost like he's trying to. And I know you're not necessarily doing that, but it's like he won. And they keep going back. He won the Big Ten title. Yes, he was really good. He was really good, but there's other aspects of that team that won. I mean, it's almost like the quarterback position was one cog of a great, including Hassan Haskins as a great running back, power running back. So it goes beyond just Cade
Let
McNamara.
me ask you a question. How are your captains decided? Is it player vote or is it
That's
coach
player
decided?
vote. That's player vote.
Okay, so the players voted Cade captain.
That's fine. They're also, I mean,
Hmm.
JJ McCarthy is extremely well liked on that team.
Okay, but he wasn't elected captain.
Well, he's a second year kid. I mean, Cade's been in the program. This is a fourth year, Steve. You know how that
It
goes. I
wasn't.
mean,
It's not like he's a freshman. There are such things as sophomore captains out there. If you're a
unusual. Unusual. Yeah.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
careful what you
Well,
wish
I mean,
for.
okay, you can warn me, and it's like we have no control over it. So I'm
Yeah.
not. But it's interesting, though. I always like to get the Michigan State perspective on this thing, and you didn't surprise me with yours because it seems to be your Cade people. Every Michigan State person I've talked to is a Cade McNamara person, and it's almost like I have this subliminal thing that they're portraying to me, like, God, please, because I think let me tell you something real quickly about JJ McCarthy, and I'll go back to the Colorado State game.
Mhm.
Okay. This goes back to the read option. So it's in the second quarter, and JJ comes in, and it's a read option, and they had one of their linebackers just literally froze when he was in the mesh, and fearing where that JJ was gonna, pull and run, which he did later on a design play. So he heads off the stove, and the other guy just follows JJ, the
Mhm.
linebacker. Boom, 19 yards. Boom, right there. First snap. Cade McNamara does not threaten the defense like that because they don't even honor that. They don't even honor that. I saw that last year. I saw that obviously in Georgia game. They didn't even honor that. They have to honor that with JJ. So it goes beyond his arm. It
Okay.
goes to his legs. And that's what I like about JJ.
Would you address? Would you at least give on this point? Cade is probably less error prone. You're going to get a little bit more vanilla game, but without the excitement. Whereas JJ may have more upside, but he may force things. He may I mean, I know it's one play. Well, it's actually two plays at Michigan State. He fumbled twice.
Yeah.
He fumbled
Yeah.
twice, and
Yeah.
that
No,
really
I
cost him.
understand that. And I know that that's all I hear about is the fumble twice. And one was not his fault, even though people think they say it was. But so like for example, I know it's against Hawaii, but he threw 12 times and 11 were lasers and one was dropped. I mean, K goes in there and throws an interception against
Well,
Hawaii.
but again, what's
The
his
week prior,
mindset?
he threw an interception and got overturned. But so I mean, it's not like Cade McNamara is this flawless dude who doesn't turn the ball over.
Okay.
He
But
turned the ball over against Georgia. He turned the ball over against Ohio State in that game, that first possession or second possession, if you would, North going south. It's like, good Lord. No one thinks about that. He turned the ball over. It's
okay.
almost like there's this image. Cade McNamara doesn't turn the ball over. He does. It's like, I don't know. But one thing is, to me, it's not a quarterback controversy at Michigan. It's a quarterback luxury at Michigan because they have two good quarterbacks, in my opinion, which I think is nice to have if injuries come into play.
Not to belabor the point, but I think you just helped my side when you talked about Cade coming in and throwing a pick against Hawaii. I'm not sure that's a strength because again, I don't want to read too much into that, but what's his mindset? I mean, if
Well,
JJ's throwing BBs and easy
well, then
conversions,
then then for
maybe
Cade
it's not a strength.
McNamara, fans, it goes back to watch what you wish for. Is that
Mm,
a mental weakness, mental toughness weakness? You know, I
maybe.
mean, it's the team, the team, the team. You know, and JJ talks about Cade. Cade didn't talk about JJ. Post spring game and the presser didn't even mention him. So, and I'm not trying to, and I'm not inside the walls of Schembeckler Hall, but the image is, and I think he can flip this. And this is where the coaching staff, the fellow captains, the fellow seniors on that team are going to come into play. It'll be interesting. I'm not saying that JJ is going to rock the world, but from experts that people that know way more about football than I do, and Urban Myers goes crazy about the release of JJ McCarthy. It's like high caliber, and so
Mhm.
there's a lot of experts that I think are endorsing the fact that this is for Michigan to take it next level. I think they could have a really good season with Cade McNamara, but they could never compete with Georgia. We saw that.
Yeah.
We saw that in the Orange
Well,
Bowl. I
well, we
saw it
won't
personally.
we won't learn much about JJ next week against Ann Arbor Pioneer JV or whoever you're
No,
playing next week.
no, no.
But
Just like yeah, just
what
like you
what
didn't learn
what,
anything against the worst team against the MAC. You'll
what
find out a
that's
little bit more. I think against Washington. Maybe Washington is as bad as the team that was last year. We
yeah.
don't know. I think your test, you're going to find out
It's Minnesota.
October 8th.
Minnesota.
Minnesota, actually, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Michigan's going to find out a little bit more against Maryland because Mike Loxley's got a good offense on there. Um, so and two of his little brothers play well. So I think we'll find out then. And it's Big Ten. Thank God it's Big Ten. You know, it counts. So it's
Right on.
all good.
Right on.
So anyway, so before I let you go, so are you gonna there at your backdrop there? I love once again, I love that catch from well, I don't, it was a Michigan win, but so for Fog Adler Fieldhouse, can we
Yeah.
get a little bit more Spartan stuff up there, or
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah. I've got all sorts of stuff I'm looking at back here that need to get up. I just haven't had the time. I'm hoping by next episode we can get some more stuff up. I got a giant Rose Bowl display. I got a ginormous
yes.
Izzo sign. I got all my. You can see my Final Four, or yeah, my Final Four
Oh,
chairs behind
oh
me.
yeah, yeah. From
Um,
the Fog Adler Fieldhouse Studios in Grand
right.
Traverse County. I'm expecting a terrific backdrop there, Stevie. Next time here on the Ad
I'll be
Man. And
working on it. I'm working
all
on it.
right, till next time. Be safe out in Seattle. Have fun. And I'm not gonna say good luck because I don't really care about your team. So,
That's
and I'm
fair.
sure it's mutual, right?
That's fair.
See ya.
Go green.